continue our trail with just a hint of echo, because the dissolution of the monasteries happened. Now, for those of you that don't want to get into your Tudor history, King Henry VIII wanted a divorce because his wife couldn't provide him with a son, had fallen in love with Anne Boleyn, and he needed a divorce, and the Pope wouldn't give him one, so he decided, I'm going to create my own religion. So he did, and that meant that he sent his commissioners around to visit places like this. Blackfriars in Newcastle. It's an entire area. I'm at the top of the Chinese garden because Chinatown is just along there for anybody that's ever fancied amazing Chinese food. However, let's see just how far this goes. Now, the thing you've got to remember is that all of the money, or the bulk of the money, lay with the landowners and the church. The church is still the second biggest landowner in Britain because it had buildings as huge and massive as this. This is almost the size of Newcastle Castle, and it went the full length along right to the very end of what is now Stowell Street. And when the commissioners came out, they had to decide whether the people running these places were doing a good job. And they reported back to King Henry about Blackfriars. It is indeed a nest of profoundly drunken and bawdy individuals. So they decided to scrap it and seize all of their lands, and that's what they did. Now, when you say seize, it makes it sound like, oh well, they just took the deeds and walked away and said, out, be gone. Not quite. You got to remember the time. The time was, I'm going to set an example to all of those Catholics. And obviously they just had a big row with the Pope. They essentially came in here with swords raised and killed as many of them as they could. 3 of them escaped, and they went to a place that at the time was called the Small Well. Small Well became Swalwell, next to Bladen. They hid out there, and when they thought it was safe, in other words, when they heard that the commissioners had gone, they crept back up here, and they came to this very green, and even then there was a small bridge. It wasn't like this one here, but it was a very small bridge, very narrow, just wide enough for one person to cross the gorge. And when they came running along, they saw all of their brothers, about 18 of them, walking down here off the bridge. They ran up to embrace them, and they weren't there at all. And ever since, around here, the ghostly monk has become a thing.